You've probably heard that investing in property is a real headache, right? Super complicated. Well, today we're digging into a model that claims to flip that idea completely on its head. It's called the Joseph Muse model, and the promise is that it makes property investment way, way simpler than you'd think. Let's see how.
So, this is the big question, isn't it? For most of us, property investment feels like this huge, intimidating mountain to climb. It seems complex, risky, and maybe just for people with tons of cash. But what if that's not the whole picture?
And there it is, the core claim from the material we're looking at. Investing in property in the UK is far easier than you might think. That's a pretty bold statement, for sure. So our job today is to get into the how. How exactly does this model supposedly make it so easy?
All right, let's start unpacking this whole thing. Is there really a simpler way to get into property investing? Let's take a look at the actual system behind that big claim.
So, the system has a name, the Joseph Muse model. And, giving it a specific name like that suggests it's not just some random idea, but a structured, repeatable process. So, what are the steps?
Okay, let's get into the mechanics of it. It all kicks off with what the source calls the 20% deposit model. This is the first absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle, your initial investment. To make this all make sense, the model uses a really straightforward example. Just picture an apartment valued at £200,000. That's our starting point, the total value of the asset we're playing with. Now, here's the first key number for you, the investor. The model says your part of the deal is a 20% deposit. So on that £200,000 apartment, that works out to £40,000 from you.
So you might be asking, where does the rest of the money come from? Well, the other 80%, that's £160,000, is covered by a bank mortgage. This is a classic financial strategy called leverage. Basically, you're using borrowed money to increase your investment power. In other words, your £40,000 is now in control of a £200,000 asset. Pretty cool. This chart makes the whole financial setup super clear. You see your slice, that 20%, gets combined with the bank's massive 80% slice, and together you control the whole thing. That's the power of leverage, right there in a picture.
Okay, so you've bought the property, largely with the bank's money. But now you have this big mortgage payment every month. So who pays for that? This next bit is what the source calls the real engine of the model, the tenant. The core concept here is something called the tenant-covered mortgage. It's a simple idea, but a really powerful one. It means the rent money you get from your tenant is specifically designed to cover your entire monthly mortgage payment to the bank. And this slide really drives that point home. According to this model, once you've made that initial deposit, your ongoing financial contribution drops to a big, fat zero. The tenant's rent handles the biggest monthly bill for you. And what's the end result of this whole setup? Well, the claim is that your wealth, in the form of your ownership stake in the property, just grows over time. And it does this without you having to constantly reach into your own pocket month after month. So that brings us to the long game. How does this initial investment actually turn into a real payoff? Well, the source lays out a 10-year profit plan. So here's the whole journey laid out on a timeline. It starts at year 0, when you put down your £40,000 deposit. Then, for the next 9 years, your tenant is basically paying down your mortgage for you. And the final step, at the 10-year mark, is to sell the property. So how do you actually get your profit out? The source says it's a simple 3-step process. Step 1, sell the apartment. Step 2, you take that money and pay off whatever is left on the mortgage to the bank. And step 3, everything that's left over, well, that's your net profit. So what's the final result of this whole 10-year plan? Let's look at how the model suggests you can take that profit and keep growing your capital. And this is where the source makes some pretty big claims about this model. The whole idea is you take that profit and you reinvest it. You just repeat the cycle to buy more properties. The document says that hundreds of investors have used this system, and it even calls it the most reliable and fastest growing wealth building model. And that right there brings us to our final provocative question, which is taken directly from the source's own bold claim. Is this really the most reliable and fastest growing model? What we've done here is break down the how, the actual mechanics of the model as it's presented. The if it works as well as it claims, that's the question we'll leave with you.